Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This episode we have Netflix 144th film. It's the 2019 Indian Marathi-language drama titled 15 August. It's directed by Swapnaneel Jaykar and it stars Mrinmayee, Deshpande and Adinath Kothare. I am Jesse. I have hopefully not butchered those names too much, and I am here by myself ready to talk to you about this film. It's not the 15th of August, it's just 15 August. So hopefully if you've seen this one, you're along for that ride. If you haven't and you wanted to check it out, please do, because I will be spoiling this as I move along. But that spoiler starts now, I guess, where I do the fast flicks, where a quick summary of the film is provided. So this one is a love story playing out while the importance of freedom and India's Independence Day hovers in the background. So this one is a very Indian-centric film. I would suggest that without a lot of knowledge about the background of the country or context about what's going on in that country, this film might be a little bit of a struggle for some people, but we'll wait and see what I thought, because I do have a bit of a background now after covering quite a few of these Indian language films across the Netflix originals, and I should have done a count, but I reckon we've done close to 10 out of these 140 episodes so far. So but a little bit of background. This one was really hard to find anything about. The only thing I could find was an interview with the producer, Dixit, and the comment from them was that we have 400 theatres for Marathi films across India, and if more than 2 films are released together, the theatres reduce even more, meaning that we're talking again about that theatrical release in comparison to Netflix. So the highlight that they noticed was that the number of people you can reach is limited if you only have a certain amount of cinemas to put it in. They showed the film to Netflix. Netflix really liked it, and it does not mean that cinemas don't work, is what they've said, but for this film in particular, Netflix was a great choice at that point, because it meant that they were hoping more people could see it. And I guess it was released on the 29th of March 2019 on Netflix across the world, filmed across India, and this is where I guess I find it hard to back up what the producers said, because not many people have seen this film. If you go on Rotten Tomatoes, there are 3 reviews. They're all rotten. That's it. There's no audience reviews. There's no percentages. You go on IMDb, it's on a 5.8, which you look at and you think, oh yeah, that's not too bad. But that's only on 234 people as of the time of recording this. So, and the same for Letterboxd. It sits on a 3 out of 5, and you look at that and you go, that's pretty solid. But only 47 people have seen this. So I'm not too sure that the working with Netflix has actually worked in this situation for them, because it doesn't look like a lot of people have actually seen this film. And I think I'll take that into my early thoughts on the actual film, so we can talk about this one. And this does have a large cast of characters. There are so many people. The runtime is over 2 hours, and I think a bit of both of those has let this one down a little bit. I think that if the focus remained on the love story, which is in this film, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But that leads into some characters that I can talk about from this film, I guess. And as I mentioned, this does cover a love story, and it's between these characters, Ju and Raju. So Ju she comes across as this really nice girl, but she is this prisoner to her parents. They're the type of parents that we have seen in these Indian films before, that they tell her who she should marry. They look at arranged marriages, how she should dress. It sort of came across, and she does have a brother, I think his name was Rohit. It looked like that he was sort of on her side a little bit, but at the end they arrange for her to meet this rich Indian guy who lives in America, and without any choice from her, and you can see throughout that she's not very happy or impressed with this. The other thing with her, I guess, is that apparently she's good with poetry. They do put off a couple, or let her spiel off a few little poems. Not too sure whether the translations 100% worked, but possibly that they did sound all right in the native tongue. That will lead me into Raju, which is her love interest, and he's a little bit of the opposite to her, because he's an artist, and from what you can gather in this film, being an artist isn't necessarily seen as a very positive or a good career path in India, and he obviously doesn't have a job, and so because of this, he's not acceptable to Ju's parents, and they forbid them to see each other. And in the past, we do see these flashbacks of them being together, and Ju's being this character that has a job, has money, and wants to support him financially, because she wants to be with him, and she wants him to be an artist. She wants him to follow through and be happy with a career path that he wants to do. And I guess through these flashbacks, we do get to see little bits and pieces of that. But he does buy her a ring, and he's serious about making this relationship work. But obviously, she feels like she has to follow through with what her parents want from her, and even if that isn't exactly what she wants. The other side story that I mentioned is that there's heaps and heaps of these other characters around, which I'm not going to go through every single one. I think the main one that I talk about is there's this little boy called Ninad, Ninad, and he's this kid who gets his hand stuck in this hole in the middle of the courtyard of this like sort of shared apartment sort of area. And this kid is the center of attention for the whole film because the events of this film happen on the 15th of August, which is India's Independence Day, and the hole that his hand's stuck in is a flagpole. The hole that his hand's stuck in has the ring that Raju has bought for Ju. So Raju doesn't want people to find out that the ring's there. The people want to get his hand out. This kid's in pain, and then by having these people coming together, and we'll talk a bit about this later in the themes, I guess. But having these people around him, he's a very central character. And you do get to get a bit of background about his family too, and I guess his father. He seems to be this strict guy that wants his kid to focus on studies, and the reason his hand's stuck in there is because he keeps rolling marbles with his friends, and this ring's stuck in there too. But his dad wants him to play cricket, and calls him an idiot, tells him he needs discipline. So obviously he's getting a little bit of a hard time at home as well, I guess. There's another artist there, this female artist called Sonu. She obviously has a crush on Raju as well. She wants to be an artist as well. The last one I'll talk about, which I've mentioned before, is that obviously there's this arranged marriage that's been set up. This guy called Amit from America, he's an Indian who's living in America, and the interesting thing is when we do get to meet him as an audience, we hear that he actually approves of the job that Raju has. He likes art. He has his own gallery. He believes that artists they truly live their life and they're free. And we do find a bit of background too about him and how he has a girlfriend in the past who's passed away, and he wants to talk to Ju a little bit about how's she going to let go of Raju, because he knows that, or he can see that they've had this connection before, and she asked him to buy a painting of Raju's work to hang in the house when they're married, and I guess that sort of leads to that idea that maybe she's not quite ready to let go just as yet. The director for this one, Swapnaneel Jaykar. The only other directing credit I could see was for a 2018 TV series called Horn OK Please. So not sure whether still working or wanting to work, but that's the only other credit that I could see apart from this film. Time to look at some scenes that stood out and some ones that maybe didn't necessarily stand out too. And I think it's really good to point out some of the camera work in this one, in particular in and around this flagpole hole that's in the middle of this courtyard of this shared living area. There's a lot of good camera work of these high angle shots of the artwork around this hole, the low angle shots from inside the pipe in the hole, so you can see the cleaning of the hole, so you can see the kid's hand stuck in there, and also there's a couple of really good symbolic sorts of ideas where you've got Ju sort of sitting against a couch where it looks like she's imprisoned through these bars of the wall and things like that. So some really good symbolism in this film, as well as there's a character, an uncle-like character, who sort of adds the enthusiasm for this film. He's upbeat. He comes up with all the suggestions. He's the one that's giving that explanation as to what the day's about and how to hang up the flag for Independence Day and things like that. And he's the one that comes up with a majority of the suggestions too to get Ninad's hand out of the hole. So I think that, yeah, he was much needed. Without him, this film probably would have been a lot worse. The last thing that I'll touch on is, and I've already given the spoiler alert, but at the end, we do actually get to see this couple together, and they hug at the end, and in front of everyone, including their parents, and it's this idea of being free together. And we'll talk probably a little bit more about the idea of freedom in some themes soon. But before that, I need to talk about some things that I didn't really like, some forgettable stuff. And I think that this whole idea about this kid with his hand stuck in this flagpole hole, it was so repetitive and just went on and on and on. And by the end of it, I was like, I know that they were using it as a central location for all the characters to be together, but I mean, if I went through, they tried to sing his hand out. They tried to use Dettol, soapy water, shaving cream, a hammer and chisel, the idea of a road excavator. They tried to pray. They tried to pull him upside down. They tried a dog, and then they're like, finally, let's get the fire brigade. So I think the joke, or if it was meant to be funny, it just wasn't funny for me in particular. The other thing that I found a little bit laughable was the love interest guy rocks up, Amit, and all these people are trying to get this kid's hand out of this hole, and he rocks up in this nice car, and you see these really sad looks on Raju's face, and inside, once the guy gets inside the house, Ju's dad pulls the blinds down so that Raju can't see it anymore, and then just out of nowhere it just starts bucketing down rain, and I just couldn't help myself but laugh and just sit there thinking, seriously, come on, like we get that rain represents tears and sad times, so I think it was a little bit in your face. And then the last thing too, just another situation with this poor kid with his hand stuck in the hole, after it rains randomly, just so we can see the emotion and sadness for Raju. Apparently he needs to pee whenever he hears rain. So we spent 5 minutes about this discussion about how they're going to let this kid pee while his hand's stuck in the hole. And then at the end, they give him this choice of a variety of different empty bottles. And they makes a big deal that he likes orange juice. So he's going to pick an empty orange juice bottle to pee in. And then they proceed to have him pee in a bottle. And I was just like, I don't know, it didn't add anything at all. It was just a useless scene. So that's it. Realistically, not an awful lot to complain about, but there we go. And all right, so some time to talk about some ideas and some themes and some messages that this one was trying to say. And I guess it was an over 2 hour running time, so it did have quite a bit to say. And this one, it's about independence. Realistically, this is. It has so much side commentary about the independence of India as a country and people as individuals, and this idea of freedom in that independence, and the freedom to love, the freedom to choose your career, the freedom to choose how to die as well, I guess. One of the side characters is an elderly man, I think they call grandpa, or even that idea of the freedom to get out of a hole, and this idea too that or this metaphor of being stuck in a hole, that these characters are stuck in a hole at times, or they may be trying to say that the country as a whole stuck in a hole at a time, and it's an idea of this unity too. You can be independent but still be a union and come together for each other, because this chawl, or this area that they all live behind these closed doors, and they make mention lots of times that they don't really like to associate with each other. So this actual event of this kid getting his hand stuck in this hole gets them all together, which is a nice thing. So yes, you can be independent, yes, you can have your own freedom, but it is nice to join together at times too. So realistically, not a too bad a message to come away with. And there's also that idea too of letting go of greed, looking out for each other. This kid has this ring, or this idea of the ring to be together, that they don't need that ring. Realistically, they've got each other. So that's the last little takeaway, I guess. And I will finish off a little bit here with what did I take away from this film. And I think that for me, seeing arranged marriages again on the screen in one of these films, and I get it's a cultural thing, but I'm just a little bit over it. I feel like we don't need to be seeing arranged marriages, because I feel like it's so against, and maybe this is me just, I'm not even trying to preach, I'm just like, I just don't understand and don't feel that we need to see that on the screen, because it's such a negative thing. And that's just my personal thoughts, I guess. I did learn that the 15th of August is Independence Day in India, so that's a cool little historical fact that I can think about. But I think the biggest takeaway for me from this one is there's these scenes where Ju and Raju, that they're coming up with ideas of how to scare this new love interest guy off, and there's this suggestion to call him a mother effer. And I'm like, in Australia, this film's rated PG, and parental guidance is recommended. And Netflix, obviously, in Australia, regulate their own content and put their own ratings on. And I don't think I've ever seen a PG rated film with the F word in it. And so I guess this highlights my concern that, before we spoke about the amount of people that have actually seen this film, which is very minimal. So I think that there's a chance that there's possibly no one at Netflix in Australia in particular that's even bothered to watch this film. They've just gone, it's a love story, nothing bad in it, we'll just chuck a PG rating on it. So a little bit concerning, to be honest, that we can get a film, if you're trying to follow that rating process or the classification process, and you wanted to show a nice family-friendly film and you see PG, you go, cool, I feel comfortable popping this on without me being in the room. And if, some younger kids manage to, and I know that you'd have to have the subtitles on and they'd have to be able to read the subtitles to know what they're saying because it's not in English. But I just thought that was a little bit inappropriate and a little bit counterproductive from Netflix not thinking that one through. I think I'm always ready to finish this one off. I think I've sort of explained it as best I possibly can. I think that, like we said, the film does have a lot to say. There are lots of little messages throughout this film, but it is a little bit overbloated with too many characters and too many situations. And I find it really hard, I guess, to make a connection to some of the ideas and themes if... like myself, I'm living outside of India. I get that whole idea of freedom and that whole idea of being independent. That's really cool, but some of the other stuff just doesn't sit well with me. So it's not a horrible film, but 2.5 out of 5 is what I'm going to give this one. We are on social media. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram. Please give us a follow or a like or anything on, and if you can give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, that would be great as well to get us up so people can see us. But the question I wanted to put out to the audience this week is that, do you think that Drew made the right decision at the end, picking the artist over the rich American, or the rich dude living in America? What do you think? Do you think that was the right choice? And I think, sometimes it's nice to see these cliches broken in film, but I think she's made the right choice at the end of this one. So hopefully you've enjoyed having a listen along and hearing what I've had to say on this film. Next week we'll be back, and next week MJ will be back with me to cover off the 2019 film. It's a period crime drama called The Highwaymen. This is directed by John Lee Hancock. Good cast. It stars Kevin Costner, Woody Harrelson, Kathy Bates, John Carroll Lynch, Kim Dickens, Thomas Mann, and William Sadler. So if you've seen The Highwaymen or keen on seeing this one, please do jump on board for next week because we'll have a good discussion about that. So thank you again for coming along for the ride. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to you keeping me company next week.